Welcome to Get Ripped Collectibles.
Welcome back for another year of college football here with Gator Dave. We got week 1 picks. We did our preview. They're up on YouTube. Make sure to check them out if you haven't already. We're here, Dave.
We are here, and all the way to week 1. So 0 behind us, and week 1 is here, and we're excited. Third season, very excited to start our Pick'em show with the week 1. I want to remind everybody, please subscribe. I think we left that off of the last broadcast, so please subscribe so you know when we're popping on YouTube. And as Mike has in the comments section, we've got that the fact that we're going to try to do 7:30 on Thursday nights like we did last year.
Yep.
And very, very, very excited about the upcoming season for sure. So, you ready to get rolling?
Yeah, let's get into it. Start us off on our first game.
All right. So we have Army versus Louisiana Monroe. So looking around 7.5 on the for Army at this point, 48.5 over under. Army was up
9.5.
It's 9.5.
9.5.
Wow. Geez. So do I have to change my Army by 7 now, or
If you want Army, yeah, you're gonna have to go with that spread.
goodness? So we're gonna have to take it up. All right. So the Army was 6-6 last year. Brian Daly will be the starting quarterback for the Black Knights. Starting running back is Tyrell Robinson, but he's not going to be ready for the opener. So unfortunately. Army's pass defense last year was third in the nation, so they had a pretty good pass defense. The Warhawks from Louisiana Monroe, they were 4-8 last year in the Sun Belt. Louisiana Monroe, they stole a 5-star edge rusher from Texas A&M. One of Jimbo's rejects that he lost all those guys last year for various issues, and Louisiana Monroe got a 5-star edge rusher. Their quarterback is Jair Wright. He's a senior. Last year, Louisiana Monroe lost 48-24 to Army. So that in itself is what's going to lead me to favor an Army in this game, Mike.
Yeah, I'm with you. Ultimately, I got Army as well, even with that -9.5 bump. Give me Army and the Black Knights. They got 17 guys coming back, returning starters. Like you said, they handled Louisiana Monroe pretty well last year. Even the time before that, they beat them 37-7. I think Jeff Monken's going to have his guys ready to go. Look for Army to be passing the ball out of the shotgun this year, Dave. It's they're switching it up after that cut block rule.
Nice.
Yeah, they're starting to
Yeah.
they're starting to air it out a little bit. But I'm with you. I like Army. So.
Yep. I think they can win by 10. So 9.5. I think we're safe right now.
Yep.
All right.
Tulane, South Alabama. Who do you like there?
So let's see. This one is at Tulane. So South Alabama. These are two teams that are pretty good group of 5 teams. South Alabama. We talked about them a lot last year. They're fun teams, right? Yep. South Alabama was 10-3 under Coach Kane. Carter Bradley's the returning senior quarterback for the Jaguars. And they returned their top 2 receivers in Devin Volson and Colin Lacey. So offense looks to be in pretty decent shape. Tulane 12-2 last year under Willie Fritz. It's funny about this team. They lost their starting running back. Name's Cam Carroll. He came to the Gators, and now he's torn his ACL.
Mm.
So I guess that's what we get for stealing
That sucks.
stealing a runner back from Tulane. It's horrible for the kid, obviously. And our the quarterback that the Gators wanted is Michael Pratt. He stayed with Tulane. Everyone thought he was going to go to Florida, but he decided he was going to stick it out. Obviously, great coach and Willie Fritz. So he's a great quarterback. Pratt's a good job. 62%, 26.84. He also ran for 500 yards. So he would have been the bomb at Florida, but we're not getting him. So last year, Tulane beat UCF by 17 in the AAC final. They also beat Cincinnati by 3 during the year, and they beat USC by 1 in the Cotton Bowl game. Okay, I really like the way they finished last year, so I'm gonna say Tulane's gonna cover the 7 at home.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. Tulane is solid. They did lose a lot of guys, though. Willie Fritz was one of those guys, like you mentioned. Easily could have gotten another head coaching job at a bigger program last year. He chose to stay at Tulane and kind of finish what he started kind of deal. He's been there for a while now. Tulane's got 14 starters back. Their DC, they lost him. He went to Miami, Lance Guidry, but the DC they hired is from Troy. Before that, he was at Army with Jeff Monken, who we just spoke about. So I think it's a good pick. Ultimately, I am on the other side here, Gator Dave. I am on South Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think it's the points. I think the points are too much. I'm trying to pull up the.
It's probably going to be. You're thinking it's going to be like you think Tulane can win, but only by 3 is probably what you're thinking, right?
Yeah, well, it's a first game. They had a great year last year, right? And they had a bunch of key leaders, and I feel like there's just something. This first game is going to be interesting. There's going to be a little bit of growing pains, right? You got on the defensive side of the ball, especially with that old DC leaving there. Guidry's a fiery spirit, so who's going to replace that? Who's going to get these guys going? Here's the thing with South Alabama. South Alabama's got 18 returning starters back. They have their top 3 running backs back. They have their top 2 passers back. They have their top 2 receivers back. They have their top 6 tacklers back on this team from last year. Last year they went 10-3. I don't believe they played Tulane last year. No, they didn't. So this is going to be a fresh sort of game. They haven't seen each other. Give me Alabama and the 7.5. I think it's going to be a much closer game than some may predict. So we'll go with that.
This one's at 6.5 now. It moved to mine, so all right. So I got
you at 6 on here.
All right, cool. So I got Tulane, and you got South Alabama. It's our first clash of the day. So
that's right.
Let's move on to our favorite team out west with Hawaii. Stanford is playing at Hawaii. Stanford's favored right now by 7, and over unders 58.5. Stanford is now part of the Pac-4, as we talked about. There's only 4 teams left in the Pac conference.
Yep.
Stanford's returning only 5 starters. They lost some guys. Obviously, the big deal was they lost their coach. They were 3-9. Shaw is gone. Troy Taylor's the new coach. He comes over from that powerhouse of Sacramento State. Their quarterback is Ari Patu. He's their starting quarterback. He's a junior. Now, they do return E.J. Smith. Emmett Smith's son at running back. He had a few injuries last year. Their defense, that of Stanford, allowed 434 yards last year per game and 32 points. And they basically got gutted in the portal. All the good players got taken, what was left of them anyway. Hawaii, not any better. They were 3-10 last year. They had a running back, Tylen Hines, that ran 7 yards a carry. Their quarterback is Braden Shager. The last 5 games last year, he really came around. He threw for over 300 yards a game in each of those last 5 games. Hawaii's going to have a game under their belt against Vandy, of which it'll be a loss, but at least they'll have a game under the belt. So I'm going with Hawaii with that little hex out there that we talk about, tough place to play when they do all that traveling. And I think these are two teams that are, not in that great of a place. So I'm gonna go with a home team and get +7 here.
I like it. I'm on the other side. Again, I'm going Stanford in the points here. Not a lot of starters. They got 6 returning starters. Like you said, they lost David Shaw, their head coach. So again, where's that leadership going to come from? Things are a little different now. But the key factor for me is E.J. Smith. E.J. Smith has the ability to put this team on his back and go in there to Hawaii and get a dub and get the cover. So give me Stanford in 7. And I like E.J. Smith to potentially run for 200 yards on these guys. After this game, it's going to get real rough for the Stanford Cardinal. So I think they need to go ahead and get one while they can. So let me get Stanford, and we'll see what happens.
All
right. Let's go. Let's keep it out west here, Dave.
You wanna start this one?
The Washington. Yeah. I can do that. So we got Washington and let me find it.
Boise State. Boise State at Washington.
Yeah. So Washington State's getting Boise at home. We talked a lot about that Boise team last year. They had their ups and downs. They had that head coach that came in. He was a former player. He was trying to change the culture up at Boise a little bit. Things had gotten quote-unquote soft. I think he is the right guy for him. Ultimately, I think this year they are going to have a bounce-back year. I just think that they're running into a team in Washington that's highly motivated. They returned 15 starters. They brought in some key transfers. They didn't really lose too many guys. Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback, he's a dog. This is his last go-round, so you're going to look to see his best football as he puts on a show to try to get to the NFL. Give me Washington to cover the 13.5. I think they're just going to be too much. I think it could be a close game in the first half, but I think in the second half they should be able to pull away. So give me Washington in the -13.5. Who you like here, Dave?
All right. So a couple of things I found out in my research is the Broncos lost their number 1 receiver in the last week or two during camp, Latrell Caples. So he's down, which isn't going to help him at all, obviously. Boise was 10-4 last year. Quarterback's Taylon Green, he returns. They do have 3 4-star running backs on that team, which is almost unheard of for a group of 5 teams. So they do have a stable of running backs. Where they perform or not, we'll have to see. Washington comes in, ranked quite high, and they were 11-2 last year. Like you said, Penix is coming out again. He'll probably be one of those first round draft picks in the NFL no later than second next year. And with 14 starters returning, and they're really motivated to win the Pac-12 before they leave. So I really think they're gonna slay in this game. And in 2021, Washington did beat Boise 38-7 in a bowl game.
Yep.
It has been, obviously 2 years, but I'm going to take the Huskies as well.
The Chris Peterson Bowl. That's what that is.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
All right, cool.
So I'm going with the Huskies too.
Right on.
To cover the 14.5 at this point. So.
All right, let's head to the Big Ten. We're going to talk Purdue, Fresno State. Purdue is hosting Fresno State. They lost Aiden McConnell, replaced him with Hudson Card, one of Gator Dave's new favorite quarterbacks. Purdue's returning 11 guys, 11 starters. They got that new coach in Ryan Walters. Jeff Brom is gone. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They got a pretty young offensive line. They got some older guys, but it's pretty young. I ultimately think Purdue's going to have enough to get it done. What worries me about Fresno State is obviously their coach, Jeff Tedford. He's a beast. He has been for a long time. But they replaced this quarterback last year. They had Jake Haener. Jake Haener, when he was their quarterback, he was money. When he didn't play, Fresno State really, really struggled. But they got a guy now, Mikey Keene from UCF. He's a baller. He can sling it. I think he's going to step right into where Jake Haener kind of left off. I think Fresno State has an opportunity to be really good this year and surprise some people. I just think the size of Purdue in this one is going to be the ultimate kind of decision with this. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. But ultimately, I think the home field advantage for Purdue and their overall size as the bigger Big Ten school, I think they get the win and they cover the 4 points. Who do you think here, Dave?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Mike. I'm feeling the same thing. Fresno did have a decent year last year at 10-4. They won the conference, but they lost a lot on the offensive line. So that's tough to replace and get back in good graces, especially when you're coming into a Big Ten school. And Purdue was 8-6. They won the Big Ten West, as Gator Day predicted last year. And they do have Coach Ryan Walters coming in from Illinois. He was Brent Bielema's DC at Illinois. So I think we're going to start seeing some good D out of Purdue, which obviously is going to help them in their plight of trying to win this game. They return only 10 starters, so they lost a lot of their production. But like you said, they've got Hudson Card as their quarterback. I'm not that impressed with him. I mean, he'll do okay, but he doesn't have a lot of weapons either. So they're going to be rebuilding. But I think they've got enough. I mean, I didn't have a lot of confidence in them in terms of where they land in the Big Ten West. Mm-hmm. But I think they've got enough juice and being a home game that they'll come out and beat Fresno State.
Right on.
And cover the so
cool. All right, let's keep it Big Ten here. We got Minnesota, Nebraska. What are your thoughts here, Dave?
So let's see. Nebraska returns 14 starters from their 4-8 season. So they got a lot of good players coming from that 4 team. They do have Coach Matt Rule, and they've got former Georgia Tech Jeff Sims is going to be their quarterback. I mean, I'm just not all about him anyway. It's like his third team. The Cornhuskers, they've got a lot of work to do, and I think it's going to take Matt Rule some time to get this thing going. And I did a little research. When Matt Rule comes into a team, he's not one of those guys that turns it around in the first season. Usually they suck like they were the year before. So I don't project any major turnaround this year in terms of Nebraska. Now, next year could be a whole different story when he gets to build his team up. But I don't think they're going to have all that much. Minnesota has returns only 9 starters. Their quarterback is going to be Anthony Kalakamanis. He's a redshirt sophomore. They were 9-4 last year. got a great defense, right? They finished 8th in the nation in total D last year. So, and last year they won this game in Lincoln by 7. So my thought is they can come home this year and Minnesota can cover that 7.5 points.
Right on. I'm with you. I think Minnesota is going to be able to get it done in this game. This one's scary though to me. I think this one is it's going to be pretty close. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think the deciding factor for me was that it is going to be a home game in Minnesota, so they don't have that red wave, that red sea that they're going to have to deal with. I mean, that crowd is going to be hype for Matt Rule's first game. I do like Jeff Sims for Nebraska. Yeah, I think he's going to be a good fit there. I think he's a good quarterback. He's just not been on the best situations, so it'll be interesting to see what Matt Rule can do with him. Historically kind of gets the best out of his quarterbacks for the most part, other than the NFL. But I'm with you. I think Minnesota and the experience of PJ Fleck and I think they're just going to be they're going to get enough to get out of there with a victory and I think the cover as well. But it's going to be tight. It's going to be a close game.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, totally.
Let's move ACC now. ACC, we got NC State. Who do you got here in this battle?
All right, so NC State is favored by 15 over 2 touchdowns, and the over/under is 47.5. NC State was 8-5 last year. Obviously, they sent their quarterback to Kentucky, but they've got ex-Virginia QB Brendan Armstrong this year, so I don't think they lose any steam at all there. They return 11 starters from last year, and as usual, the Wolfpack usually packs a good punch on the defensive side of the ball. So I think they're gonna do a good job in this game. I've got them middle of the pack this year at 7-5, so it's not like they're gonna blow it up because I think there's some teams that are, definitely better than them in the ACC. UConn last year, 6-7. They do return 17 starters.
It's a lot of guys.
They've got Penn State. It is that's a nice haul. And Penn State transfer Taquan Robinson is their likely starter at quarterback. Last year, however, the game it was at NC State. It was 41-10, so they won by 31 points last year. My thought is if they, tack on 10 more and only win by 21, we still cover that 15. So that's kind of where I am on this one. I've got NC State covering the 15 points.
Yep, I'm with you. NC State. It's gone down a little bit. It's down to 13.5 now. But I'm with you. I like NC State. I think they're going to be too much. UConn, Jim Moore has got them turned around. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they won more games last year than I think they did in the 5 years prior. So he's definitely got them in the right direction. I just think NC State's going to be too much. Brennan Armstrong did not transfer from Virginia to lose game 1 at NC State against UConn. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think NC State's probably going to handle him pretty well. I'm thinking like 38-13. I think it's going to be an ass whooping. So, give me NC State in the cover. I'm with you. Next game we got North Carolina and South Carolina. Battle of the Carolinas, ACC versus SEC.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I was just watching, the ACC network, and they had. What's the coach's name for North Carolina, the older guy?
Matt Brown.
Matt Brown was on there talking. So, and I know we both think a lot of North Carolina. So, here's what we got right now. Well, it's -2.5. North Carolina returns 13 starters, and they've got Drake May, who threw for 4,000 yards last year. He's definitely going to be a first-round draft pick. He stays healthy, they're gonna have a decent year. the Tar Heels were 9-5 last year. They kind of faded out as the year went on. They lost a few games and had some trouble, definitely some serious trouble on defense. They ended up and they're ranked 20th this year. So they do have their depth back in the running back room, and they had a little trouble running last year. And they've got a new coach, OC, in there now, Chip Lindsey, who's been around the block a bit. He's got a lot of experience. He came from UC. His last stint was UCF as the OC there, so I think it's going to have a positive effect on those guys, that they can run the ball a little bit more, and he comes from that, high flying offense. So I think it's gonna be very good for North Carolina. They've got 4 O-line starters returning, so I think I picked North Carolina to be number 2 in the if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I did. I got them finishing 10-2 and second in ACC. So feel good about them. But South Carolina returns 9 starters from last year. Not a lot. They lost some. They did pick up a couple of guys in the transfer portal. They were 8-5 last year. Spencer Rattler returns as the quarterback, but my deal on him is I just feel like he's kind of a bit of a up and downer. I don't think South Carolina's got much at all in their running back room, and I think that's going to be the problem. They've had a good running back for the last number of years, and their last guy ended up in the NFL, and I don't think they've been able to replace him with anybody good at this point. So I think they're one-dimensional, but that Spencer Rattler, Juice Wells connection is going to be something to look forward to and see. But I think if defenses are smart and if South Carolina can't run the ball, it's going to be a problem getting the ball to him. So yep. I'm going to take the Tar Heels in this one to win by a field goal. Basically, is where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm actually on the other side here. I'm going South Carolina plus 3.5. This is one of those things I'm drinking the Kool-Aid in. I don't think South Carolina's going to finish quite where they want to at the end of the year, but I think this game is one that they can steal from the Tar Heels. The Tar Heels, they're bringing back a ton of starters. I think it's 17. Everybody's got them super high on their board. I mean, I'm not worried about their offense at all. They got a veteran offensive line coming back. It's the defense that worries me. Gene Chizik's defense, it's been a little shaky since his time back in Chapel Hill. I think this game is going to be an absolute shootout. I do not know the current line on over-under. I took South Carolina in this, but I would be real eager also to probably slide towards that over, depending on what it is. I think it's going to be an absolute shootout. Could be 60-60, that type of score. But I've seen a lot of things coming from the South Carolina camp. Spencer Rattler's having a lot of praise. Apparently he's grown a lot, and he's sort of taken leadership, and not in the way that we maybe saw in QB1 and some other things online back in the day when, he was in high school, and it looks like he might have gotten his stuff together a little bit. So I'm expecting big things. They got a freshman receiver, 6'5" guy named Nicholas Harbor that watch out for jump balls. I think he's going to be able to go up and get some for Spencer. Give me the Gamecocks here, plus 3.5 to get the cover. Because I think I'm with you. I think it's going to be a field goal type of game.
Yep, it's going to be tight. And the over/under on this game is 63.5.
Yeah, I'm taking that all day long. I think I think that would be the play, honestly. If I could go back and change it, I think I'd be on the over there.
Yeah, I know. I thought about it, and that's the way all those North Carolina games are.
I'm making a note of it right now. All right, so next game we got, Louisville, Georgia Tech in Atlanta. Go ahead.
So this one's pure ACC, right? So Louisville comes in favored by about 8 points, 49.5 on the over/under. This game has basically two different coaches than we had last year, right? So Louisville returns 10 starters from last year. They were 8-5, and now they've got Jeff Brom returning home, where he was the quarterback there years ago. Last year, the Cards won the game. They won the games that they should have, and they lost the ones they should have. So they got to kind of take it to the next level. They've got one of the best pass rushes in the nation, while Tech's O-line gives up a ton of sacks. Like, they would like worst. So I think that quarterback for Georgia Tech is going to be on his back a lot. Tech returns 11 starters from their 5-7 season. Their interim coach was made the coach, Brent Key. Zach Pyron will be the starting quarterback for Georgia Tech. And they've still got just a long way to go to build that roster up. So I think Louisville's got just a little bit more, and the Jackets have quite a bit of work to do. And I know they're in at Georgia Tech, but I think that Louisville's going to cover those 7 points.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Louisville. So just a couple things. The game's neutral. It's a neutral site in Atlanta. Neutral.
Oh,
yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, neutral.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's in the bins instead of across the street.
Instead of right down the street. Yeah. Two left turns over.
Across the street.
Yeah. And then the quarterback for Georgia Tech is going to be Haynes King, that QB from Texas A&M.
Okay.
But I'm with you. I still like Louisville. They got Jack Plummer coming from Cal. They got Keon Coleman coming from Jackson State. They got a good big offensive line. I mean, pretty much all of them are over 315, 6'5", just big dudes. 13 returning starters for Brom, and again, a couple transfers that I've mentioned. I think it's going to be a rough year for Georgia Tech again. Unfortunately for the Yellow Jackets, they can't catch a break, and I think this is the beginning of that trend for them this year. So give me Louisville minus 6.5. I look for them to go in there and handle Georgia Tech pretty handedly. All right. Keeping it in the ACC here, we got Duke Clemson. I know Gator Dave's pretty high on both of these teams, so who do you like here, Dave?
I am. I think both are going to do pretty well this year. Obviously, I picked. You remember from the Pick'em show, I picked Clemson to definitely come in and win the ACC, but I've got Duke up there a bit. So Tigers have returned 16 starters from last year. They've got sophomore Cade Klubnik as their quarterback, and as we talked about on the other show, I'm pretty high on this kid. I was high on him last year, and I think Whistle Britches waited too long to put him in and left DJ in too long last year, and they lost a couple of games. But I think this guy's for real, and I think he's gonna light it up, and could very well be, even though he's only a sophomore, he could be at the ceremony in New York, because I think this kid's gonna be the new and shiny quarterback this year.
Okay.
Clemson's got a blue chip ratio of 72%. They won the ACC last year with a 11-3 record, ninth, and they're ranked 9th now. Nice returning O-line. And what's pretty interesting is obviously they picked up Garrett Riley, the OC from TCU. He's now at Clemson, so that's going to be a positive for that team, thus winning the ACC, in my opinion. Duke returned 17 starters from last year, which is good. They got a nice little quarterback, Riley Leonard, who did well last year, and he's a junior this year. I think he's going to do a good job this year once again. And the Blue Devils were 9-4 last year, so not too shabby. they've got a good defense with a nice front seven. I just don't think they're a pushover. I think Clemson's going to win this game, but right now this thing 12.5. Give me them points. I think Clemson wins, but it's only going to be by 10. So I'll take those points in the Blue Devils at home.
All right. Interesting. Yeah, I'm completely on the other side. I think Clemson's going to absolutely dismantle them. Riley Leonard or not, I think this Clemson team is going to come to play. They're going to come to make a statement. I think that anybody along the terms of, what we're talking about now of even Duke competing with them in this game is just straight disrespectful to them. So I think Clemson is going to handle them pretty well. I got them finishing pretty high this year also. So give me Clemson minus 13 to go in there and take care of business. I think you're onto something, though, in the first half. I think it's going to be close. I think Duke's going to kind of catch them a little bit. But I think Klubnik gets it corrected. Jordan Shipley still at running back. I think they just have too much for him. So Clemson minus 13. All right, we got two left here, Dave. We got two of the bigger games of week 1 to talk about now. First, we're going to go LSU, Florida State. We still got a SEC, ACC matchup here. You got LSU with 15 returning starters. Jaden Daniels, potential Heisman guy at QB. Big expectations after the year they had last year in Brian Kelly's first year. The thing that worries me about LSU is their offensive line. They are a pretty young offensive line. They're going to play some tough D lines, tough front sevens this year. So as long as that offensive line can hold up and give Jaden Daniels time to do what he needs to do, I think they're going to be fine. But they're going to be going against a real tough Florida State team. I mean, they are also returning 17 starters this year. They brought in more transfers. It seems like the only thing Mike Norvell can do since getting to Tallahassee is bringing in transfers. You look at all their starters, they're all transfers. They're not recruited from Mike Norvell at Florida State, not been developed there. They're just bringing guys in to plug and chug. And you got to wonder at what point does that sort of play a factor, or what sort of point does that run out, with these guys not really being homegrown guys? Are they there to sort of get in, get out? Are they bought all the way in? It's a lot easier to do when you win and you have the year that they had last year and how they have national championship aspirations. But this game's going to be a tough test. I mean, you got LSU. You beat them last year. LSU was supposed to win. Now the roles have pretty much reversed. You got Florida State right there. Potential playoff dethroner of Clemson for ACC. Same with LSU, but I think LSU is going to be too much this year. I think that they're going to have a chip on their shoulder from the game that they played against Florida State last year. I think that they have the eye on the prize. I think Florida State's heads are probably a little big after the year that they had last year, and I can kind of see LSU punching them in the mouth a little bit here in Orlando to start the year. So give me LSU minus 2.5 to get the cover and the win against the Noles. Who do you like here, Dave?
Yep, I'm kind of feeling the same way. I mean, one of the things about last year's game, if you remember, Florida State got to play a week 0 game, and that game was about as close as you can get, and LSU looked like they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Yep.
And
first game of Brian Kelly's era.
Yeah. So I really think that game last year had LSU been the one that got the week 0 game, they would have beat them. So let's go through what we got here. So this game's being played in the dump known as Camping World Stadium in Orlando. That place is horrible. LSU does return 15 starters from the team last year. They're ranked 5th in the nation this year. Jaden Daniels coming out. He's my Heisman candidate, who I believe is going to make a difference and win the Heisman this year. The Tigers were 10-4, 71% blue chip ratio. But the expectations are really high for Florida State. Really high. They returned 16 starters. They got their quarterback Jordan Travis. They were 10-3 last year and they're ranked 8th this year. They did pick up a number of players as they have in the last couple of years. They got Jaheim Bell, the tight end from South Carolina, which I think is a pretty good pickup. And they got a good running back in Benson. I just don't think that FSU's defense is good enough to handle LSU, and I think LSU is gonna be able to take care of business. It's not gonna be. I don't think they're gonna win by 2 touchdowns, but I think they can win by 7, and I think they're gonna cover this 2.5 without any problem on that last game, almost the last game of the weekend. So no, it's 3:30 on Sunday the 3rd. So
Right on.
looking forward to that.
Cool. All right, last game of the week here. Game number 12. We got your Florida Gators going to Utah, going out west.
We're going to Utah. We haven't played outside the state of Florida in the first game in 30, 40 years probably. So Utah with 4.5 was the last spread. Hell, that could have changed again. The thing's dropping. But I think 4.5 is where this one was. Over and under is 45.5. Florida only returned 7 starters, but our starters on a team that was 6 and 7 last year, I'm not really that worried about. I'm more excited about the young players that we're bringing in and they're going to allow to play. I think that's going to make a big difference this year. Our big addition was the infamous Graham Mertz at quarterback coming out of Wisconsin, the interception machine that he was. Last year, obviously one of our worst years ever, got beat by Vandy. So that's, that tells you right there how bad our year was. I think the Gators defense is going to improve dramatically this year. I mean, we were just flat bad on defense last year. We've got some highly rated players coming in on defense. They're young. We're going to be young, but I think they're going to be good. It's just we're going to have to go through some growing pains, but I think they're going to see a big difference on the defense. We're going to be playing up, on the receiver versus last year playing 5-10 yards off. I'm like, what the hell? Worst team on third downs in freaking all the Power 5. But I think we're going to look better. Utah returns 13 starters from last year. They won the Pac-12. They were 10-2. They've got Cameron Rising as their quarterback. He had the injury, and the reason the line keeps going down is a lot of folks don't think Rising's going to play. I think obviously if he doesn't play, it's going to be helpful to the Gators, but I don't know if it's enough. The other question mark is their tight end Brent Kuthi. He tore us up last year. I mean, they talked about the other tight end, and I guess maybe we covered the wrong guy, but this guy killed us last year. So there's a chance he won't start either. But if both those guys start, it's going to be, they're going to really whip us. Being the home game, I think it's a huge advantage for Utah and their consistency and the number of players they've got. I hate to say it, but I'm going to go with the Utes at the minus 4.5 points at this point, and hope that I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think you're going to be right. I think it's going to be Utah -5. I think those growing pains that you mentioned are just going to be too much in this environment, in this kind of game. I expect you guys to bounce back the following week against McNeese State at home, but this one on the road in Utah. This Utah team's pissed. Last year there was one of those teams that at the beginning of the year they had national championship aspirations, and nobody's really talking about them anymore. So it's just USC, it's Washington, it's Oregon State, it's UCLA. and then it's kind of Utah somewhere down the line.
But
Colorado.
They do it every year. Every year
Yeah.
they get no respect. They're the Rodney Dangerfield of college football.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I ultimately think that chip is going to be real heavy on their shoulder for this game, and that's going to ultimately be the difference. Is their bit of experience, their want for revenge. It doesn't help that you guys beat them last year. So yeah, give me Utah -5. I think there's just going to be too much experience on that team. They got 16 returning starters to Florida's 11. And I think that they're on a different path and a different mission this year than Florida is. It's going to be a rocky road for the Florida Gators this year, I think, and I think this one is the beginning of that. So, give me Utah -5. All right. Let me throw up the recap here, run through it, and we'll call it. So we're both looking at Army -9.5. You got Tulane -6. I got South Alabama +7.5. You are on Hawaii +7.5. I'm on Stanford -6. We're both on the Huskies -13.5. We're both on Purdue -4. We're both on Minnesota -6.5. We're both on the Wolfpack -13.5. You are on the Tar Heels -2.5. I got the Gamecocks +3.5. We're both on the Louisville Cardinals at -6.5. You're on the Duke Blue Devils +13 versus the Clemson Tigers -13 that I'm on. We're both on LSU -2.5 against Florida State. And we are both on Utah -5 against your Gators. Anything you want to add to week 1 before we sign off here, Gator Dave?
No, not really. I'm hoping for a win, but we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. So we'll see what happens. And it is week 1, and a lot, and week 1 is usually one for the upsets, right?
That's true.
So
that's true.
And
no better time for it to happen.
We didn't go down any crazy roads, I don't think, in terms of crazy upsets, right? But there will be a couple of crazy upsets this week, without a doubt. So
no doubt.
And so we'll remind everyone next Thursday, 7:30, right, Mike?
Yep.
Or
you can find us back here next Thursday, 7:30. It'll probably be a live show, whereas this one was kind of a pre-record thing. We recorded this on Friday, the 25th. So next Thursday, 7:30 p.m. here on YouTube, we'll be live for week 2.
Yep. And please subscribe and like and all that cool stuff, and catch our live show so you can jump in the chat and chat it up with us too. So another good week, Mike. Look forward to it, and we'll see you next time around. And go Gators!
Good luck, sir. Good luck. Have a good week.
You too.